Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Oh my goodness. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk to Thrive By. That's what it is. And whether you're hearing it or you're seeing it or you're hearing it and seeing it, we get fired up, especially on days like this and shows like this. I want to introduce you to one of our amazing hosts, fantastic colleague, friend, Lysa Beltz. And the reason I want to introduce you to her because she is tapping in today. She's tapping this in today because there is a word in our vocabulary that has multidimensional and multi-layer meaning. It is one of the words that can shift a perspective. Mm-hmm. It can shift an emotion. It could change all of the agonies of defeat that you may be experiencing to the world of possibilities. But you should know that, Lysa. You know, she lives in just a beautiful Idaho, so beautiful, native of Idaho. Just, I don't even know what happened there. I don't know how that state got to be so beautiful right there. But she is coming up because she and I have shared a similar experience. What happens when you meet Jesus? What happens when you do that at a young age? Mm-hmm. What happens when, despite everybody around you maybe that are saying, no, you didn't, you know you did, and then your life is guided. Then your life is everything from growing up to getting married, to then not getting married, to then having a new family. But what would happen if you can imagine, and this is so clear to me today, God being your foundation? What would imagine if you can just hold that for a minute? And then you take a look at how she's coming out in the world. You take a look at her own show. You take a look at her absolute dedication and commitment to helping us with that extra touch of empowerment, the one like where you're empowered, but then you need like the whipped cream and the cherry on the empowerment. Yeah. Today, get ready for this show, right? Here we go. Lysa is going to talk about the power of yet. Y-E-T. Great to have you. Welcome to the show. Yay.
Oh, Dr. Pat, it is so good. This is my second time being on with you, and it is an honor and a pleasure, and I absolutely love it. I have been looking so forward to this. So before we dive into the power of yet, can I tell you just a little story?
I'd love it. I love stories. Go ahead.
You're going to love this one. So when Linda reached out to me, she had a couple of different possibilities for dates, and she could not get anyone to take Friday the 13th. And so, there's a word, and I don't know if I can pronounce it or not. The word is the fear of Friday the 13th, and it's paraskevedekatrophia, something along those lines. And it literally means Friday the 13th. And I told Linda, I said, oh, Linda, you've got to hear my story. I was born on a Friday the 13th at 10:13 p.m. I was my grandmother's 13th grandchild, and I weighed 6 pounds and 13 ounces. 13 is my number.
Wow.
And so that's how I ended up on your show today, is because nobody else would take it. So I pretty much figured this is a divine appointment.
There's no question, because I'm kind of like you. I relate to Friday the 13th in a different way, but you have all of the symbols lined up. for that. And that is a great story. And thank you for coming on, because it isn't a divine appointment and it's a divine message you're bringing today. That's what I love about this. See, we think we're in so much control, but things are being divinely orchestrated for the masses of people that want to hear this message today, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the power of yet applies to people of any age, literally preschoolers. If you can start instilling and teaching young children the power of yet, it's going to reduce their frustration all the way through school age into young adults. I have not achieved my financial goals yet. To adults our age, and one of the quotes I want to talk about is, don't be afraid to be ridiculously terrible at something new. I have not learned to do this new thing yet. And I also want to throw out a quote that says there's a difference between not knowing and not knowing yet. And that is Sheila Tobias, who was a college educator. And as adults, we so often, whether it's in business or in relationships, raising children, we get so frustrated with ourselves. It's like, and I am such a prime example of this. My sister phrased it the best way I've ever heard. She said, give yourself the grace for not knowing what you haven't learned yet.
Yeah. That opens up. Okay, here we go. That opens up a world of possibilities.
It does.
I love this because when I went back to school, they teach probability. Mm-hmm. Very hard for me to understand the concept.
I have a math degree.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I almost flunked out my first year because I didn't understand the idea of probability, because my mindset was in possibility. Once I let go of all that and I discovered it was math, but not yet, or not knowing yet, doesn't it open the door maybe even wider?
Yes. Yeah. And it's like having written a book, Becoming Unshakable.
Yes.
If I say I can't do something, it closes the book. It's the end of a chapter. It's the end of the possibility. But if I flip that and say, I can't do this yet, it's exactly what you said. Anything and everything is possible. And as we move into our divine and supernatural life and our being, and I truly believe that we are all designed by a divine blueprint. And God has our days written in our book of life that every one of us has. I may not have seen the fulfillment of all of God's promises to me yet.
Yeah.
But I know that God is faithful, and I know He will bring circumstances and people and networking and connections, just like yourself, into my life that is going to help me to move forward in my purpose.
I love that we're talking about this, because when you hold that space, when you're looking at that divine foundational anointing.
Yeah.
And we hold on to that anointing. There are promises that are made.
Yes.
Now, I'm 23 years old, or 20 something, I don't even know. And I declared to Linda that I'm going to get a PhD. Thank goodness I didn't say I'm going to get a PhD next year.
Yes.
It took me almost 20 years for that to be realized, but I never let go of it.
Correct.
And is this idea from your perspective, and especially when you talk about becoming unshakable, is this from your perspective because there are pieces of the journey that don't get us from where we are to the yes, because we have to do something, or something has to happen? What is your thought on that?
Yep, absolutely, Dr. Pat. And again, being a personal empowerment coach, I do a lot of mindset work with people, and you've just hit on such a key factor and element. And it is, so when we move into overwhelm because we think everything has to be done right now. And so it's I cannot tell you how many places in scripture it says in due time.
Yeah. Oh.
And that's God has not fulfilled everything to me yet. I have not become everything I need to be yet. And my daughter did go straight through undergrad, grad school, and got her PhD. For her, that was the right path. She was very focused and very driven. A lot of us take longer.
Yep.
I did get my undergrad degree. I've not gone on yet.
Yep.
There is a desire, but I have not been or become the right person I needed to be yet. Again, as a coach, I've gone through a lot of training, a lot of teaching, a lot of personal growth myself to become who I am today. And it reminds me of writing my book. I started my book in 2007. God gave me this clear outline. I mean, he literally wrote out the 8 chapters and told me what the chapter titles were. And I just got right on it. And I wrote 3 chapters and I hit a brick wall. And no matter how many times I bumped up against that brick wall, I could not write another chapter. And finally, that little voice came filtering in and said, darling, you got to go live it some more before you can write the rest of the book.
Oh my God. You sound like one of my mentors. She passed away.
I'm sorry.
When Sidonia said this to me in 1999, before she went on a trip to Morocco, which I was supposed to go on, she said, Pat, I want to leave you with one thing. I know you're doing a lot of great, this is before the show and anything. I was in school.
Yeah.
And so what she said to me was, I know right now you have a lot of ideas. You want to get things done. You think you can help everybody on the world. But let me leave you with this. You cannot take another person to a place you haven't gone. And I looked at her. I said, but I've done it all. Be serious. Mom suicide, I'm 6, I'm homeless. And when I started the show, 6 months after starting the show, the realization of what she talking about hit me. I had never been sick. My body had never failed me. So how could I talk about health and wellness? But isn't that interesting? These things don't show up, do they, to stop us? They why do they show up? Let me ask you. Yeah. Why do they show up?
Because life is for us, not happening to us.
Yeah.
Again, going back to that divine blueprint. And it's like I talked on my show this week, I didn't ask me anything segment. And one of the questions was, how do I find my purpose? We're all searching for that elusive purpose, like it's a gold coin hidden under a rock deep in the forest. We're all living our purpose right now today. We may have not fulfilled all of our purpose yet, but on the path, we discover who we are. We discover more about our gifts, our talents, and our abilities, those things that are put in us with that divine blueprint. And you may not be exercising all of your gifts yet, but life is a discovery journey to find them and to find where you're called to serve. And so once you understand, and I do a lot of personality tests, they're all puzzle pieces, they're all clues that tell me, how did God make me? How am I divinely orchestrated? Because when I'm moving in that divine orchestration, he's going to show me the area that I'm passionate about. I have a friend who works with women coming out of addiction. There's an 18-month program. That is their passion. They are taking their gifts, talents, and abilities into that arena. My passion is empowering women. It is getting women past the church hurt, past the, I'm a groveling worm at the feet of God. There's nowhere in scripture that God describes us that way.
No.
God divinely orchestrated each one of us and stamped us with good. You are good because we're designed divinely. And so, you talk about finding that purpose and moving into it and growing into it and becoming, it's again, the quote at the beginning of my book is the unbecoming process. So often we grow into a path and we get a ways down it and go, this is not the authentic me. And so we have to reel ourselves back in and unbecome a little bit, and then we can get back on track.
Yeah. See, what I love about what you just shared is if I'd have known you in 1990 and had this insight, and of course, my pathway had to be the way it was. But what I'm talking about what you bring forward is this. If you could avoid the steps that I went through because I did not know what you just shared, or I didn't have somebody to work with.
Yep.
I didn't have somebody to work with. I don't know that the outcome would have been different, but how I went through those years where I was discovering myself. And, you know, I've shared this before. There was one day, and I know this was divinely driven. I know this was. And I'm walking down in my big fancy house, in my big executive job, in my sports car, right? And I walk out, and there's always a mirror right there to look at before I go get in the car.
Yeah.
And I looked in the mirror, all dressed up for the big executive job and the big salary. And I looked at myself and I said, you are unrecognizable.
Ugh.
Right?
It's that authenticity.
Now, what a gift. Now, you know who's talking to me there. You know, I'm not talking to me. You know who that was.
Yeah.
In a way that I could only hear it. I'm not the kind of person, I wish I was, that I'll be brushed by a feather and become 360 degrees.
Yeah.
I got to look in the mirror, and it's like, mirror, mirror on the wall, you are not the fairest of them all today.
Yeah.
And that was about my inside.
Well, and you had a choice in that moment.
Yeah, I did.
You know, you had a choice. And kudos to you, truly, even though it was God speaking, you could have chosen to ignore it, but you didn't.
Yep. I got to tell you, people, I'm going to take a short break in a minute here. I have seen a lot in my lifetime. I have stood up and marched and fought for rights of people that didn't have. I've done a lot of that in my life. We've gone through a lot in our life, in our world. But what people have gone through in these past 3 years has made them unrecognizable, and they just don't know it. And one of the things that I want to talk with you about when we come back, it's even difficult today to even decide what a realistic expectation is. And you cannot do this by yourself. And as much as we love our friends, their fear belts go up. And they're like, nope, don't quit your job. When we come back, I want to talk with you about the insidious nature of self-sabotage, doubt, and expectations. And I'm going to have you talk about the unrealistic ones. But before we do, how do people work with you? How do they find out about your work? How do they listen to your show? Tell us about that, if you would.
I would love to. Yep. So my show on TTR is the Unshakable Living Show, and it is the second and fourth Wednesdays of each month at 5 p.m. Pacific. And you can find me at www.lysabeltz.com, but I am Lysa with a Y. So it's LYSABELTZ.com. And you can find my Unshakable or Becoming Unshakable book on that page. And then there's a link to my coaching website. I do offer a free 30-minute consultation, which is a true coaching session. This is not just there's a little bit of getting to know you, but we actually do coaching because there's a lot of people that have not experienced coaching and they're not sure what it is. So we actually do a mini coaching session, and every new client or new prospect gets a free 30-minute session. I also offer, which was fairly interesting, what I call a spiritual mentoring session. And so I have a gift of knowledge. And so when people come to me and say, hey, Lysa, can you ask God about this for me? I sit down and listen, and God gives me downloads for people. And every single one of them is completely different than any other one I've ever done before. And it is so insightful and so impactful. So I really want to encourage people, if you're questioning about some divine kinds of things,
Yep.
I'd love to help people with that too.
I don't go through my day or my week without, I have 2 spiritual coaches and mentors, and I would not be where I am today without them. I would be dead. You know, addiction, recovery, all of that runs in my family. And I know for myself that when I think I am the pilot, I am in trouble. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, and by the way, for those of you out there want some help, so this is really important to me and the show. It doesn't matter what kind of help is. There is no right or wrong.
Yeah.
If you have a question and you want to get some guidance today, please give us a call, 1-800-930-2819. And understand this, you are on the pathway, in Lisa's words, becoming unshakable. When we come back, we're going to talk about that. And what does that mean? Stay tuned, everybody. We got her in the house. Benny, let's go to a break. Yes, Benny. Yes. Thank you.
Had to dust that one off for you.
We gave her an award, you know.
Yes, we
The
did.
Crust Busting Award. Yes. For those of you, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the show is not originally Dr. Pat Show. It was Crust Busting Your Way to an Awesome Life. And I am getting more requests to bring that back. Benny, we have to time it to bring it back, right? The whole Crust Busting show is so much fun. But it's like Lisa said, you don't know what you don't know. But when you're open to it, 20 years ago, you get an idea for something odd like crust busting, it turns into a phone number, which turns into radio, which turns into Benny and I being together for 20 years. And then the evolution of this by the listeners to rename the show. However, if you look at Christina Aguilera's bio, you will see, if you Google Christina Aguilera crust busting, we gave her like an award. Why? Because she did exactly what Lisa is saying.
Yeah.
She decided, that is not me. Genie in a bottle is good, but no, I am this. This is my message. It's about women. It's about empowerment. Okay, I got on a rant.
That's okay. I love your rant.
Look, before we go off, what's your website? Again, I got a text message. They wanted me to ask you, please give out the website, and is there an easy way to contact?
Okay. Yep. So the website is www.lysabeltz.com. And you can reach me via email at Coach Lysa, so CoachLysa, Coach Lysa at lysabeltz.com. So
Okay.
that's probably the easiest way.
And then, of course, with the show, we always put lower thirds up on the video version of this and people can see. Thank you. And thank you for your comment that I'm talking like I'm from New York. Okay, I thank you for that.
That's a compliment.
I love our audience. They are the best. Okay. Unrealistic expectations are not the same as having visions and dreams, and we get confused.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about this for a minute, because self-sabotage, doubt, which I believe is the dream killer, and expectations, give us some help here.
Yeah. And so I have to just say, I am an expert at this. Just so, you always wonder about, okay, what am I an expert at? I am an expert at this. So from probably first grade, and I am not exaggerating, from first grade forward, all the way through college, 4 years of college, I set the bar so high for myself, it was never realistic to attain it. And so you set yourself up for failure because you're going, okay, I'm going to get straight A's in everything. I'm going to ace every test and then get 100 points on it, which is not realistic. And so when you fail, you go, see, I knew I wasn't good enough. See, I told you I couldn't do it. And so you start this erosion process in your belief, your self-belief. And over time, you erode and you erode and you erode. And the world is more than happy to jump in and help you erode, because we don't like tall poppies. right? It's the Australian tall poppy syndrome. We don't like people that stand up and own their presence and own their power and their capability. The world is really happy to help knock the feet out from under you or pull the rug out. But you start it by doing it to yourself. And so when we talk about self-sabotage, there's a great book called The Big Leap. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have probably read it before, but it really talks about we are more afraid of success than we are even of failure. And so we will come right up to doing something great, and then we'll self-sabotage just so we don't stand out, or so that we're not visible, or so that we think what we deserve is less than what we actually deserve. And so we get in our own way. And I, again, am a queen at this. I am really, really good at getting in my own way, second guessing, thinking through things. And I drive myself crazy. And so we talk about getting out of your head space and into your heart space. And that is a big part of not self-sabotaging. When we self-sabotage, Dr. Pat, we do it up here in this 4 to 6 inches between our ears. We don't self-sabotage in our heart.
We don't. Can we talk about that for a minute?
We can.
Let's see if I can tie this together, but I'm going to need your help. I was typing a note so I didn't forget it, but I grew up with false evidence of a mean God.
Yes.
Now, when I shifted to a benevolent universe, a benevolent God of my understanding, a benevolent spirit, a benevolent, whatever you want to call it, Holy Ghost, whatever you call it, there are many, many faces of things.
Mm-hmm.
When the light bulb went on for me that I was holding a man-made impersonation of what I knew in my heart.
Yep.
See, that's really what you're talking about. See, when you bring that in, that is in your heart. And your heart, with that energy, will that ever fail us?
No, it will never fail.
All right. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep. You know, and you talked about false evidence. So, you know, fear stands for false evidence appearing real. So that's what fear is. And so much of that fear is manufactured up here. You know, we play the what if game. You know, again, I'm sure you've seen the statistics. We think 65,000 thoughts or more a day. And if we are not consciously working on those thoughts, 80 to 90% of them are negative. You know, that statistic just blows me away.
Yeah.
You know? And so,
and that's without external triggers.
Yes.
So can you imagine, Lysa, that these 3 years, can you imagine how hyper elevated, right?
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, again, as a personal empowerment coach, we've seen an increase in our industry in people looking for life coaching over the last 3 years. And again, it's people have been forced into some quietness. You know, it's really easy to ignore things that are knocking on the door of your heart when you're busy. And that can be busy in your mind or just busy in life. When we were all forced to slow down and quiet ourselves a little bit, there's a lot of people kind of going, you know, I'm not really happy with where my life is at yet. Now's a really good opportunity for me to step back and think about, what do I really want to be when I grow up? And that's where life coaching is your support system. We ask hard, deep, driving questions to help you get authentic, to help you get to where you are living your gifts, because that's where life satisfaction comes from. You know, when you were that hard driving executive, were you meeting any of your inner needs?
No, I'll tell you what I was meeting. First of all, let me comment, and I want you to talk about this because this is also part of what you do and what you help people with. The greatest gift for me that saved my life, right, early on, didn't come from me. Somehow, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, had my mother's passing, my stepmom, very different. A woman that knew first child 12, second at 13, this is how you take care of yourself. This is how you persevere. So that was my first real mentor. As I got older and I finished my bout with homelessness, who do you think I meet through a third person that would become a friend for life? Her family would literally take me in. I didn't know how to set a dining room table. I couldn't keep my head up. Linda shows up, and there we are, right? These are the angels.
Yes.
That if we can go to the place you are talking about, they will be there for us, won't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, in coaching, we talk a lot about as soon as you open up to the miraculous, miracles start showing up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Listen here, Benny. This was my second network. My first network was a wrong phone number. And then KKNW, Benny, Eric, Crema, they found the show. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I don't even know if Benny knows this, but I started to work with Benny in 2003 and 4, right? And somehow, because I added 2 hours on, they were going to change me to a different producer. And in my heart, and now this is going back like 20 years ago.
Yeah, almost.
In my heart, I walked in and I had a meeting with Eric and John Schwartz. And I said, no. I said, it's not about the other producer. I want to work with Benny.
You have a connection.
Benny has been my angel. He has been my guiding light in an arena that I knew nothing about. I didn't even know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to give angels like that credit.
Yes.
It doesn't mean we haven't had a rough and rocky road along the way, because look, you put two people together, maybe they're oil and vinegar, but it doesn't mean that you lose respect or that you don't appreciate why he was put in front of me, right?
Exactly.
So how do we help people understand that even in the most oddest situations, we're always trying to get help?
Yes. You know, and I'm reminded of the concept of iron sharpening iron. If you have two soft metals, you don't get an edge, you don't get a hone. It takes a iron on iron to sharpen a sword, to bring an edge, to really shave off the stuff that's keeping you from being sharp. We all need those people that challenge us, that challenge our walk, that challenge our thinking, that think differently. Without diversity of thought, you're never going to have anything new and original come up for you.
Yep.
No, and in my personality style, I want new and original. You know, I don't want to just rehash what somebody else said last week. That just does not do it for me.
No.
And without those people or even circumstances that challenge us, that doesn't happen. And I was talking to someone earlier this week who had a really unexpected financial situation come up for her, totally blindsided her, totally caught her off guard. And her immediate reaction for just a hot minute is anger. And then she stopped and stepped back and went, okay, where are we going with this? And as I was talking with her about this, the divine told me, without this need, this solution cannot appear. So until you dig this hole, or this hole is dug for you, the filler for that hole is not needed and doesn't exist. So
I love this. I love this. We're going to talk about this when we come back. But Jacob is the same thing. You know, you have Jacob and Benny here. Jacob is our TTR producer. You know, he is in a situation now with us where he is the guy. He's the talent.
He
comes in. He is running all the shows. He goes from like Benny. He's like Benny leaves at noon. Jacob doesn't leave at noon. It's like show after show after show. He brings people on air. They love these two guys, right?
Yep.
And yet he comes in. He knows how to do it. He's personable. He doesn't, grovel about it. He understands the dynamic. And these are the people that make us look good.
Yes.
Then when you add all the other people, the Jessicas, the Lindas, but these two guys on the front line, I wonder if they fit unshakable. Let's take a short break. When we come back, there's a famous quote. I think you're going to use this quote when we come back.
Uh-huh.
It was said to me 3 weeks ago, and I could feel myself cringe. When we come back, more with Lysa Beltz, Benny, Jacob, and me, and then all you. Benny, let's go to a break. Is that
That's your girl, Olivia.
ONJ?
Yeah.
Thank you, Benny.
Grace and gratitude.
I love it.
And thank you for the shout.
Yep. Anytime. I even gave Benny my goldfish, but that's another story for another show.
I love it.
Lysa, look, we're really going to bring this full circle now. But before we do, again, thank you. I can't thank you enough. I needed to hear what you had to say, and I will guarantee you our audience did as well. I would love for you to, again, mention how people can connect with you and the book. And, honestly, we need something divine to help us rise up again. So tell people how to connect with you.
I would love to. Yep. So again, my name is Lysa, but it's Lysa. And I've always described myself as Lysa with a Y. And then earlier this year, God told me that I was Lysa with a WHY. And so it's just added, again, as a kid, you never found things with your name on it because your name was spelled weird, right? Your people always made fun of it and those kinds of things. But at this point, God has redeemed that, if we can use that word. And so it's Lysa with a Y. So it's www.lysabeltz.com. And you can find my book, Becoming Unshakable. And there's also a companion workbook that is additional material beyond what's in the book. And if you buy the book, you can download a free copy of the PDF of the workbook, or you can actually purchase both of them on Amazon. So it's Becoming Unshakable. And then my email address is coachlysa, Lysa, at lysabeltz.com.
I got to tell you something. I can't share the details, but I'm gonna make a short statement, and then I want to talk about this quote.
Okay.
I had been expecting a transfer to my bank account for quite some time. Didn't think about it, let go of it. It happened during this show.
Awesome. Right? That's fantastic.
And nothing else to say about it. But if we don't do what this quote is about,
yes.
Tell us the quote.
It is my life quote. I adopted this literally as a teenager, and it has been my life quote ever since. And it is by the great one, Wayne Gretzky. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's right. That's right. Let's get into that for a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you have to be in the becoming and then be in it unshakable place. Because if you're not, what's going to happen? We're not going to take the shot. Howard said that to me on the playing table tennis.
Yeah.
And he says, Pat, take your shot.
Yeah.
And I said, I am. He said, that's not the way you play, Pat. Hit the ball.
Yeah.
Take the shot.
Yep.
How important is that? And what does that mean from an esoteric perspective? Because, see, we're talking about an unlimited, expansive energy. We're talking about a guidance. We're talking about, divinity. We're talking about ministry. We're talking about something that has no boundaries on it. But when we don't take the shot, who's putting the limitations on it?
We all have our own self limits. And some of them are out of fear. Some of them are out of being nice, and God told me a long time ago, he said, people aren't going to be drawn to God because you're nice. They're going to be drawn because you love them. And sometimes you have to love people enough to tell them the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when you give somebody a truth bomb and it is truly impactful for their life, again, just like you did, every one of us has a choice when we're presented with that truth. Do I grab that hockey puck and go, yep, this one's mine? Yep. And you get back on the ice and you skate with all your heart, or you can stand in the stages or stay in the stands and watch and not participate. Another thing that I talk about is being in the driver's seat of your own life. So many of us, and particularly us women that were raised in church to be good girls, we are not in the driver's seat. And being in the driver's seat does not mean that you're not in divine contact. It does not mean that you're not asking for guidance, because in Proverbs it says the Lord orders, guides, and ordains the step of the righteous. We have a responsibility to be in relationship with God, but when he tells you to go, you go. And that's part of taking your shot. Part of taking your shot is deciding what you really want out of life. So again, so many of us, oh God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And finally, one day I could almost hear exasperation in his voice. And he said, what do you want? And Pat, I didn't have an answer. It took me days to recover from him asking me that question, to giving myself permission to dream and think about, what do I really want? To being able to voice it to him and say, okay, here's how you made me. Here's what you put in me. The way I see using this is this, and I want to go do this. Yeah. And again, when you open up to that and you declare, so I want to talk about Daisy. Have you ever heard of that Latin word before?
No, please tell everybody about it. Powerful, yep. Right?
It is powerful. So the word decidere means to cut off. And to cut off means you're deciding. And so if you are a history buff and know your history at all, I don't know how we're doing on time. If you know your history, I think it was in 1519 when Cortez discovered America. When they pulled into harbor, he burned the ships behind him. He cut off the way of retreat. So we hear today a lot about burn the ships. For King and Country has a great song about burn the ships.
Yep.
Basically, it's saying, when I decide, I am getting rid of all of the excuses. I am going all in. I am taking my shot. And so until you decide what you want in life, it's not going to happen to you or for you. You have to put yourself out there in alignment with God. Like, I'm never going to be a brain surgeon. Okay. It's just not my calling. It's not my skill set. It's not my purpose. I could set out to be a medical person, but that's just not where I'm supposed to play. But once you find your field of play, whether it's a basketball court, a football field, a soccer field, or a hockey rink, obviously an analogy. When you find your field of play, don't hold back. God made you strong. God put gifts and skills in you that the world needs. Particularly in this time that we've been living through, we need everybody to show up and be present. We need people stepping out there in their giftings, taking their shot. And can you tell I get just a little bit passionate about this? I'm right there with you. And, I get asked a lot of questions. And as a team, especially Linda, myself, and Jessica, have these past 3 years been easy? Well, I'll tell you what, they would have been a lot harder if I did not allow for divine guidance. Yes.
If I did not get insight, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do PPP? Why don't you do this? You can get into a loan here. Why don't you do this? Why don't you accelerate this? Because that is the only way. And someone said to me, why are you doing it, Pat? You should have thrown in the towel. And I said, here's my deal. The God that I know did not bring me this far to throw in a towel. Take it home, Lysa.
Come on, Pat. That is just fabulous. And so, we all make decisions every day. And we talk about taking ridiculously small steps, because I'm thinking you're going to go, okay, really great and well, you guys, but how do I actually do this? How do I get started? And so again, I encourage you to reach out to a life coach. It does not have to be me. Find a coach, find a mentor, find somebody that's already doing what you want to do, and just go interview them. Do an informational interview, but get started. We talk about imperfect action always outweighs perfect planning. Let that one sink in for just a second. Imperfect action always is better than perfect planning. Perfect planning never gets you out the gate. If you're building a house, you got to break ground first. You got to dig the foundation. You got to pour the cement. You got to get started. Whatever people want to build in life, whether it's a better marriage, helping a child recover from addiction, whether you're building a business or you want to do a career change, or, the list goes on and on and on. Take the first step. It can be little and it can feel insignificant, but the significance is in performing the action. Ridiculously small steps get you into action.
Lysa, I can't thank you enough for today. But even more importantly, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing to help people rise up, because I think we were always meant to rise up.
Absolutely.
We were not meant to have life or situations hold us back or hold us down. Thank you so much for today. Again, please let people know how to get a hold of you. And I would love to know your personal message, what you'd like to leave us with today.
All right. So again, Coach Lysa at lysabeltz.com. And again, Lysa is Lysa with a Y. And the website, www.lysabeltz.com. My book is Becoming Unshakable and the companion workbook. They are both available on Amazon. And my message is, you are divinely designed from a divine blueprint. You are a spiritual being having an earthly human experience. You are eternal. You are created to impact your sphere of influence. So many people think, oh, well, I don't have any influence. Yes, you do. Whether it's in your home, your family, your workplace, every one of us has an opportunity to be an influencer. So find your unshakable foundation, be a light in your arena, whatever that arena is, and recognize the divine in your life. Because when you start opening up to the divine will come to you.
I love it. Lysa, thank you so much. Can you tell people how to listen to your show as well?
I would love to. Yep. And so it is the Unshakable Living Show on TTR Radio, and it is in the archives, or it is also on all of the podcast apps. It's on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and I think any of the others that are out there. Also on the Transformation Talk Radio YouTube channel. Yep. Either search for Lysa Beltz or search for the Unshakable Living Show. Yep. And I just completed my 9th episode, and it was a great one. So if nothing else, start with the one from this week. What was the Ask Me Anything?
I love it. And also, when you go to our site, Transformation Talk Radio, you'll see our TV page, and you'll see where we're going with that. Lysa, thank you for everything you're doing. You rock.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Pat. This has been awesome. I love coming on your show.
Oh, it's great. And you will be back. I want to thank you, Jacob, for doing what you do. Of course, Benny, yes, you doing what you do. And again, you are the best audience on the planet. Absolutely amazing. I love this journey with all of you. And remember what Lysa said, and Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots if you don't take the shot. Take the shot. We'll see you next time.